Okay, let's go. Zoom seems to be working here. So got a few new faces. I'm Craig Beasley. I'm the unlucky one that got president of this group for a while. So have to stand up here and think of something clever to say. So lacking that, I wore my Godzilla shirt so that there was something to talk about. Give me a break here. I'm working. Yeah. Okay. Well, we got a jam-packed meeting tonight, but that's not going to stop us from doing our normal thing. So who's been diving?
Oh, well, I think a bunch of us.
Okay, who's been diving other than the Philippines trip? Okay, wow, we still got some. We'll start back in the corner here. Miss Campanella? Okay, that's good always. Okay, yeah.
Who are you diving with? Sorry, Scuba Club? Okay. So now you're a foursome? Still flogging those GoPros, I hope.
Okay, Mr. Scott, where have you been? Eileen?
Got back from Cayman.
Little Cayman, okay.
You guys stay in Little Cayman.
We stayed.
The only place to stay.
There's three of them.
So there's other places? Really?
Well, I was going to ask what happened to Pirates Point. Did you get down to that place?
So
I know she sold it, but did they open it as a diver center or no? Okay.
Here's a little Cayman beach resort.
3 dives a day, for 9 days, still save $500 for it costs me share a room for 7 days.
Yeah.
But yes, you're living in a bubble. It's great.
Yeah.
You know, you have a 3-course supper meal.
Yeah.
Have their own light, breathe air.
Yeah, Atlantis is pretty high dollar that way too. They require you to eat the meals there. When we went to Mike's, you could just order a la carte. You didn't have to buy the full board package. Atlantis, where we were, was very good, but you know, Mr. Gordon does it his way. So, okay, maybe we should go ahead and move on. Any other big dive stories? I know this group's going to be telling them over the bar, so you know, just a real quick show of hands on our trip. Who actually saw the whale shark? Not the whale shark, tiger shark. The tiger shark. The tiger. Only 4 of us. Who got? Oh, okay. Online people, you don't count. Come on, man. Who else? Brian did. Okay. Okay.
Carl did.
Cool. Okay. Now, well, because you know we talked about some collaboration. I'm just getting a feel for how many people were involved with the whale shark, who might be able to tell some story about it, and then also who got any video or film of the thing.
you mean the tiger?
Tiger shark. Sorry, tiger shark.
Are you a little jet lagged?
I've seen so damn many whale sharks in the last on Facebook after our trip. You know, it's on my brain. But anybody else? Okay, you didn't get any of tiger shark. You did stills
Yes.
or video?
You were the one.
Okay.
You were the one with the that was the hors d'oeuvre, right? Were you on?
At an unexpected place, and this was one just in the wild. It's kind of a cool story in a way. I'll shorten it for the group, but what happened was the way we were diving, we had 2 tenders with 8 people on each one, and 2 dive masters with those 8 people. So there were 4 dive groups, but 2 tenders that were out there. One of our groups got separated, and no big problem, but except when we came up, the boat was pretty far away because they'd followed the other people instead of us. And right at this time, just before we came up, this huge tiger shark appeared out of the gloom. It was late in the afternoon, really dark, and really you couldn't see it, you know, until he was closer than that door. So he just would appear out of the gloom and go by, you know, and he kept appearing actually. as we were going up. And when we were up on, doing our 3-minute safety stop, I'm still looking down with the camera. I can barely see anything in the viewfinder. It's so dark, but he's down there going around. And then he came up shallower as we as we came up. And so we got up, the other boat loaded up, thanks, took off. We appreciate that. With a tiger shark at our feet, you know. And we're going, our boat is like this little speck over there, and the tiger shark is right here and looking angry. So as I'm looking down there, he starts ripping something apart, you know. He does one of these shark deals. I don't know if you've ever seen them where they go like this, you know, and I don't know what that's about actually in shark world, but he was doing that, bucking his head up and down. And so, oh, good. Maybe he'll play with that, whatever it is. So anyway, they finally showed up. We all got eaten by the tiger shark, and that's the end of the story. We were on the boat and, you know, getting the cameras and everything set up to go. And I'm going, what's that in the water right there? This triangular shaped thing. So his fin was coming around the little rubber dinghy. Yeah.
Y'all all got on the boat. I was the last one. Me and the dive guy.
And the shark.
And so I took everything off, and as I put my face in the water, grab my fin to take it off, he ran right under me.
Yeah.
He ran right below me. I was telling the dive guy, and he said, oh yeah, he bumped me.
Yeah.
No, Sian said he hit him.
Yeah. Well,
That was the thing.
Sian thought it was fun, so he got back in the water. This is a dive master. What's wrong with you, you know?
I think he went in after something, somebody else.
Did he?
Yeah.
I don't know. I just saw him sitting on the side of the boat. But anyway, for whatever reason, it was a little bit of a, constant.
The shark came right at me, and I was at one picture, like half of his face.
Wow.
That was the frame. He was like right there.
Mm.
And then he went up by me, and then John had to push him away with his hand.
Mm-hmm.
Whoa.
Yeah. The first. The first video I got was him coming over my shoulder like this. So I've got this video that starts with a shark body and tail going right in front of me. No, this was what's ironic. This was at Monad Shoal, which is where people used to find thresher sharks, but the word is some reason they're not showing up there anymore. So we had been diving the thresher shark, or we're going to. I get it mixed up. I think
Yeah, we had to dive.
we'd already dived the thresher shark.
Monad was after our first dive.
Yeah, you're right. It's in the same area. It was the last one because it was dark. That's right. Yeah. So, but there were plenty of them at Kimud Shoal, which is where they moved to. So
An awful lot of hydroids too. My
Yeah.
hands are still feeling it.
don't touch the stuff, Dennis. Your hands won't be stinging. Actually, for hydroids, if you don't know, vinegar will knock it out if you get it on there quick enough.
And what happened to Betsy's? She put vinegar on it?
That wasn't hydroid.
Was it?
No,
Oh.
something else. Yeah, jellyfish, there's nothing you can do about that. But anyway, we'll have a workshop on this one day. About my fingers are peeling. Okay, let's get back to Trish isn't here. I don't have an update on the Bonaire trip. Does anybody? You're going? Okay. All right.
The trip's full.
Oh, wow. Okay. Was that a Trish I heard on the?
No, that's Debbie.
Oh, hi, Debbie.
I have everybody's money and I'll be sending sending it all to Bonaire in sometime this week.
Okay. And we'll be doing a final reckoning on the Philippines trip at some point, I guess. But I want to defer that till after my jet lag is done.
If you
Great.
get out of jet lag prior to the board of directors meeting, let me know and I can bring a checkbook.
Yeah, so that was next on my list. Two other things. There's a board of directors meeting next Saturday. If you're on that list, I'll
Try
be
a different
sending
one.
stuff out. Okay, is it this Saturday or the one after that? I'll send an email. that's too far in the future for me to worry about. And oh, and there's a workshop as well. Check the calendar. It's on fish identification. It's going to be in September, and it'll be here in September, and should be really exciting for this group. I don't know, you know, the rest of the world probably would be bored to death. Okay, any other business people would like to talk about here? Wait, not yet, not yet. We have one other thing, which is the highlight of the program. As you all know, if you're new, it's called Gadget of the Month. And so every month we have somebody that's a gadget freak come up and tell us something that they've discovered that they think is so wonderful that relates to diving or equipment or whatever it is.
Did you? Okay, now this stuff really is wonderful. So here, let me, so,
Not showing up on the screen, but,
We're not getting any video, only audio.
Well,
Okay.
that's okay. Maybe it'll come back.
okay, well, never mind. Anyway, this stuff is called Safe Sea, and it's for preventative protection for jellyfish and sea lice stings underwater, because we all are annoyed by that. And 2018, I was at Dumageddon, and I was on a night dive, and the dive master and I came up first, and we apparently came through some leaves and stuff in the water that a bunch of sea lice were traveling on, and we got covered with bites. I was covered from the top of my head to my waist with just, you know, covered with bites. And I know, but they get they get inside your bathing suit. That's, you know, and they congregate around the edges. And anyway, my whole neck and head and everything and back, it was terrible. Anyway, so I went looking at that point for something to prevent that ever happening again, because it took 6 weeks for these bites to go away. And I found this stuff, and I've been using it ever since. It's really highly effective. I put it in the newsletter this week. But since I bought my first batch of it, which was just for prevention of jellyfish bites, they have started making it with the protection plus sunscreen in it. So, you know, does double duty, because I always put on this stuff and sunscreen, so now I can just put this stuff on. So anyway, everybody gets bites right around their mouth for some reason. They want to come right where your regulator is on your upper lip, and you put this on it and you'll never feel that again. Promise.
What's the name?
Safe Sea.
Is that stuff reef safe?
Safe Sea.
Safe Sea.
No, is it reef
Sea
safe?
Safe is a type of sunscreen that's okay for the reef.
It's just their regular sunscreen now, it's not.
No,
it's
you
not
can,
the bite
get
thing.
the kind that is not sunscreen. Just the protection. I still have. I don't know. Wouldn't that be great?
Miss Jan has a,
So it's all on the back table, but we've already gone through some of it, but it's pretty fun.
it's a good thing to do with it, and if you sneak out, maybe somebody will steal it thinking it's worth something.
Yeah, I might talk to you, since Lunar Fins has been grabbing stuff and making some money off of it. Okay. Yeah. Give it to Brian.
Okay.
Brian's up there.
So that's great. I think now it's time to turn it over to Dennis for the program. Excuse me.
Well, I would hope that I was online, but I'm not. I'm sorry, guys out there in Zoom land. We're going to have one heck of a presentation tonight. I know, because I did part of it. And I'm not very modest, am I? So, yeah, half of the room here has been to the Philippines lately. And a third of us probably were on this last trip that we made to Dumaguete and the Atlantis Resort and the Atlantis Azores boat. How many people were on that trip in the room here? And I know Brian out there as well, and John.
And Carl,
And Carl is there?
yes.
Oh, hi, Carl. Sorry,
Right.
we can't see the movie. I'll have to send it to you.
Well, please do.
It may share.
Oh, it may share? Okay, yeah. I think what's going on right now is that our camera is just not working. It's not linking in. You think I have a bad camera? I'll take it home and check it out. All right, somehow. All right. Well, tonight, as I said,
Still
we have
share
been
your screen?
share screen. Go ahead and share the screen. While he's doing that, I'm going to just tell a little bit more about it. This was a HUPS trip, and we sold out. We had 16 people on the trip, and we went to the Central Visayas, which is in the Philippines. It starts out at Dumaguete, and we had 5 days at the resort, and that was some really awesome diving. Went to Apple Island. We did a lot of muck diving, and then some night dives. But when we got on the boat, the Atlantis Azores, it took us all the way around Cebu. We ended up in Malapascua, where we had some thresher shark sightings, and then kept coming around, going south again towards Bohol, Cabalao, and ended up down at Oslab.
I don't know. Who knows? We didn't solve it.
Havana and Cuba are best known for old cars, colonial buildings and cobblestone squares,
Those
Hemingway, rum, cigars, revolution, and revolutionaries with cigars.
But we found a different side of Havana that is strange, beautiful, sometimes bizarre, and even dark.
There's elegant rooftop dining with friends, and then there's the music and elegant nightlife of a bygone era.
Buena Vista Social Club, once nearly forgotten, became popular again as it was rediscovered nearly 30 years ago.
Tourists flock to see 1940s Havana recreated. New generations join the old-timers to carry on the tradition.
The beautiful soul of Havana's jazz age lives on.
Cuba's music came from the streets, bohemian bars, and dance halls.
It continues today at places like La Bomba Verde or the Green Lantern.
In the 40s and 50s, and until after the revolution, Hemingway spent a lot of time in Cuba, where he had a beautiful house overlooking Havana. Hemingway's house is a must-do in Havana, but there's more to it.
It's strange that he seemed at ease with the revolution, but promptly left upon hearing that foreign-owned property would be confiscated.
His house was only seized after the Bay of Pigs. It remains as he left it.
Few make the short trip from his house to the harbor at Kohimar to see La Terraza.
Un ardiente corazón colorea mi pasión, deseando compartir.
Hemingway often docked his boat at the steps to eat and drink with fishermen.
This is where he met the fisherman that inspired The Old Man in the Sea.
Sueño en la eternidad.
Many Havana bars claim a connection to Hemingway, and rightly so, but he actually named La Bodeguita del Medio his favorite for mojitos.
One of the most unexpected and bizarre sights is the Fusterlandia house. It started with his house, but over the decades spilled into the entire neighborhood. Do you think this was inspired by Gaudi and Picasso?
Hi. Hey, don't forget that after your visit to the artist house, you can take a quick look over here. It's free to look, and we have the best prices ever. So ship is almost free. Better than Walmart for sure, I guarantee you that.
Parque Almendares is not far from the center of Havana and was built by a wealthy businessman for his beautiful wife. It's a wonderful story, but it has a dark side. Followers of Santeria perform sacrifices here regularly.
Santeria is an African-Cuban religion based on animism. Some find their god in the river and come here to make sacrifices. This is one unlucky rooster.
You can't leave Havana without a stay at the famous Hotel Nacional de Cuba. It was the playground of celebrities from the 20s right up until the revolution. The spirit of those times still remains.
Por doquiera que yo voy y no te puedo hallar. ¿Para qué quiero que los besos si tus labios no me quieren ya besar? Y tú, ¿quién sabe por dónde andarás? ¿Quién sabe qué aventura tendrás? ¿Qué lejos estás de mí? De mí. In the sunlight of your smile, in the summer of our life, in the magic of love, storms above scattered away. Love is dreaming in the night, reaching for paradise.
Okay, while Martin is queuing up the second part of the show that I put together, I wanted to apologize to Jan because I didn't get your narration into this. At 4 o'clock this afternoon, I finished it, and sorry, I owe you. But terminal jet lag does things to you. And I also missed a couple other things that ended up on the cutting room floor, as they say in Tinseltown. But I'm pretty proud of it. I think it's a lot of people gave me things to use, which I did. I just didn't use everything. I had enough material for about a 5-hour show, and I don't think you need that. Okay, here we go. It's hard for me to understand how this trip ever happened in the first place and how I ended up being the one to run it. For the heck of it, I had put together a short film on the 2017 Cuba trip and posted it on Facebook. Well, that sort of snowball rolling downhill. All of my friends would make comments saying like, when are we going to go next? Or when are you going to leave this trip? And well, Jesse was through. He wasn't going to run another trip. So I said, let me look into it. The the first thing I had to do was to find out how many
We've
people
got
might
some
be
kind of a
interested.
rectangle
And I
in the
got
middle of the
maybe 10
screen
or
here.
12 people at that time, and I sent out a questionnaire asking them what dates would work, and I got two.
Oh, keep going, Dennis.
Are you not getting the video?
We're getting the video, but we've got a small
froze.
rectangle at the bottom and a big rectangle at the top that are kind of a gray grid,
It froze.
and it's frozen.
Let's see if this works.
Two or three that looked like they were good. So I looked around on the internet and I found a company out in California that handled the Avalon boats and other ones that were out in the Cuba waters. And I said, okay, these are the dates. And they came back and said, well, none of those weeks work for our boats that we have available. That was kind of a problem. Later on, at about 2 o'clock in the morning, I was on the internet and I found a company called Dive the World that handled Cuba trips also. And I saw that they had a chat box down there, so I checked down the chat box and said, hi. And they came right back and said, hello. And I asked them a question, says, are you a real person? And I got the response back that says, well, last time I checked. So anyway, we started talking. I gave him the dates and he said, well, and I also told the story about not having available boats for those dates. And they said, let us get back in touch with you. And well, within 24 hours, I got a note back from them saying, yes, our people talked to their people and the Avalon fleet has decided they would open up the Avalon 4 boat just for your group. And I thought, well, that's pretty good. Apparently, they're a pretty big operation with a lot of clout. So that was easy. All we had to do was pay the boat some money, go find our airline tickets, find a place to stay in Havana, do our tours, and then go diving. But then there was that Dorothy moment when everything started to fall apart.
Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore.
We realized that diving in Cuba is not like going to Cozumel. The U.S. and Cuban governments don't get along very well. They seem to take turns putting up blockades for people that want to visit. Just to qualify to get into Cuba, we had to get an OFAC license and choose one of 15 categories in a travel affidavit. We were told to choose humanitarian projects. U.S. insurance isn't recognized in Cuba. Thankfully, airline tickets come with a policy that is valid in Cuba. Dan USA can't respond to emergencies, but if a problem arises and they're called, they refer it to Dan World, who will respond. Finding hotels in Havana is a bit like juggling hand grenades. Government-owned hotels like Hotel Nacional and Hotel Telegrafo, where we stayed in 2017, are strictly off limits to U.S. citizens, although Craig and Betsy ignored that on our return from the boat. Because of this problem with hotels, I asked Jesse his advice. He referred me to Celia Garcia of Tropic Vedetta, who had worked with us on our 2017 trip. So I contacted Celia, and between us, we settled on a charming boutique hotel in the center of Old Havana, Posada de Chacon. Celia booked 6 rooms for us, and as more people joined, they just went online and booked their own rooms. After it was all over, we had booked the entire hotel. Not only that, 2 of them, Betsy and Craig, had to go find a different location. On our first night in Havana, the group went across the street to eat at a nice restaurant called Ivan Chef Justo. Celia and I had become friends of sorts over the 2 months before the trip. She was going to go to England, but her boots were too worn out for hiking. She asked if I could buy her some Timberline boots. I did, and at dinner that night, I gave them to her. It was an interesting night. Monica has a thing for cemeteries and never lets one pass her by without a visit. Several of us tagged along and learned some very interesting history from a local guide.
Siempre soñé de tenerte aquí toda la vida juntita a mí. Tanto amor.
No trip to Havana should ignore a visit to Finca Vigia, which translates to Lookout Farm. The feel and history of Papa Ernest is deep and rich. His famous boat, the Pilar, was the centerpiece of Hemingway's plot to sink a German sub during World War II. He thought that his boat, fully manned and heavily armed, but disguised for fishing, would attract the attention of a German submarine. The sub would signal the Pilar to come alongside in order to requisition supplies of fresh water and food. As the sub approached, Hemingway's men would machine gun the crew on deck, while another man would throw a small bomb into the conning tower. Fortunately for both Hemingway and the Germans, he never actually encountered an enemy submarine.
So we're going to talk about the cigar factory.
This cigar factory, yeah.
So I would say that I wasn't really looking forward to it, to be honest, because it sounded kind of boring. But it was really interesting seeing that operation had been more or less the same for like decades and decades. I mean, it was fascinating. Probably the same little rolling trays and everything. But this is what happened to me. I was up there watching them roll, and I took a couple pictures, which I know we're not supposed to.
Yeah, I know we weren't supposed to do that.
But anybody got to, so.
Everybody did.
Yeah. And I'm just sitting there watching this guy, and real quickly he stood up and he wrapped up. So what happens is they have the inner tobacco, that's the stuff that smokes, and then they've got a one outer layer, and then once that's put on, I think somebody else puts on like a decorative outer layer. Well, he had gotten to the point where it was like a structural, functional cigar, and he wasn't the person who makes them pretty, but he was watching me watch him, and the door was just behind me, behind him, between us, and he wrapped it up in some paper and slipped it to me real quick. So I've got a half-made cigar.
Okay, you're going to give me a photo of that, right?
I'll get you a photo of it. And then I realized they probably would have appreciated like some money. And then I went to our tour guide and I said, I don't really want to tell you what happened, but can I get this guy a tip or something? She said, you see those monitors up there, they watch the workers, and if they have any interaction with the tourists, they might lose their jobs. So. Okay. But I have to say that weighed heavily on me for the rest of the trip. One, because I thought it was a nice gesture of him, and a couple bucks wouldn't have hurt me, and two, it weighed on me for being kind of a tourist dumbass for not being ready with a tip. So this was super fascinating to me. This was actually probably one of the highlights of my trip. I mean, I enjoyed everything else, but it's out kind of in the middle of nowhere. So you get on the boat in this harbor, and then you kind of head out to the middle of nowhere to this little series of islands, and we go out, and so we were kind of stationed in a little lagoon where we anchored. There's a little tiny marina, and then we take one of the tenders to our dive spots, and damn it, if there wasn't a boat just like the Flame out there anchored in the middle of nowhere, and it turns out that it was the Spree. Yeah. And so obviously I work on the Fling, and I've been working on it for a while, and the spree just kind of left. And there was a rumor going around that it was found in Cuba without the engines in it on a riverbank.
No engines.
Yeah, but that's not what happened. It got either sold or I'm sure sold to a nonprofit. They do some kind. They were doing research of corals around Cuba, but it was really cool. I had one of the crew from our boat take me over there, and I met their engineer, their captain, and they showed me around all the engine room. And in the past couple of years, I've become really intimate with everything that's under the deck on the boat, and so it was pretty interesting to see all that. And a lot of it is just the same stuff. I mean, it was kind of fascinating. Yeah, so.
I think we all just looked over there, and of course everybody's got photos of it.
Yeah.
It's really it was a cool experience.
It was
And serendipity.
Yeah. Well, I didn't remember it until today when you brought it up about the Hoodia.
Mm-hmm.
So we went out to, it was between dives.
Yeah, it was between dives. We were doing a surface interval.
Between dives, doing the surface interval. And we went out and there were all the lizards, and there were these little things that look like nutria that we have in Texas, but they're called Hoodia. And,
Like big rats.
Big rats. I like to think I have a really kind of special connection with small animals, dogs, cats, and in this instance, rats. So I was filming them, and I went up and had a little piece of melon.
I think it was a mango.
I think it was a mango, and fed him, and then at some point, while I was taking a picture and holding it, he jumped over the fruit, grabbed my knuckle, and then I don't think I have this on video. I was looking for it, and then I picked him up, and he went flying over my head and went back into the water. He survived.
Everybody was wondering whether or not we were going to have to get Alex involved.
Yeah. I lost a little bit of skin. Who else got hurt?
Jan and also Monica both got nibbled on their fingers.
Was that before or after?
Yours was the final episode.
So I should have known better. Damn it.
Sharp teeth, huh?
Now, what would a trip be without more troubles? COVID ran rampant. Some were down for the count. I lost a day of diving. It wasn't so much the problem going down, but it was much more scarier when I couldn't equalize going up. Definitely put me back a day. We also had some simple injuries on the boat, which became more. Simple twist ankle, which was more of a broken foot. That being said, Jan was great. She actually fought through it and kept diving. We had to have one person get really sick after the trip and needed surgery, but sounds like he's doing better now.
I've been asked to make a few comments about our 2023 trip to Cuba. I would tell you from a personal perspective, one of my greatest highlights was to spend 10 quality days with my son Mark. You don't get an opportunity to do that often in your life as your children are growing up. I'm kind of an interloper on this Houston dive group from Cincinnati, Ohio. Cuba I've been to 3 times. The first time on a motorcycle trip in about 2014, the second time in 2017, and then this last summer. It's changed quite a bit. It's really, I have great admiration for the Cuban people. They're some of the most resourceful, innovative, creative people that I've ever met. I think that, so as we travel the globe, we have often asked every participant to bring along some school supplies and toys for the kids. We've had some wonderful experiences. I think most recently in Indonesia, I typically bring balloons, and a balloon is a cheap, wonderful toy for kids. We did that again this year, past year in Cuba. We visited both a school and an orphanage, and everybody brought some school supplies, plus games for the kids. I solicited some friends of mine, and I brought 3 baseball mitts and some hardballs because I know how much the Cuban people love their baseball. But it's heartwarming to be able to share with some of the people in undeveloped countries that don't have the blessings that we have in this country.
Howdy folks, Alex Kendick here. I had the privilege to have my first liveaboard with the crew from HUPS, and we did it down in Cuba. It was a great trip. We had many great dives and many adventures. For me, it was my second time to Cuba, and those who have never been, it's a very poor country, and you can really see how the US embargo has affected this once beautiful country. It's turned a lot of areas almost into ruins. The people are strong, but you must remember that they're in a communist country, which brings me to my first bit of travel advice. Don't declare all the materials you're bringing in. Our first challenge or hiccup was all the cameras, but even worse was the memory cards. They don't like capitalistic propaganda brought into their country, Dennis. Once that little snafu was taken care of, we got out and were able to get to our hotel. We were able to go explore Cuba, and Andy and I found a delicious restaurant with some live music. We were the only ones there. It was almost like a private show just for us with some great Cuban music, some salsa, and some great food. We had lobster. It was a great experience. Now, beyond what we did on land, we also got to the liveaboard and we had some great dives. This liveaboard experience in Cuba also gave me a couple firsts. The first one being Goliath grouper. Having such a big fish sneak up on you in the dead of night was quite the experience. I'm pretty sure I lost a couple years of life every time he snuck up on me and brushed against me.
Monica seemed to be developing deep feelings for the Goliaths, and they seemed to be reciprocating. Brian, Scott, Eileen, and others did their share of fish petting too.
While under the water, there's plenty of times to also work on your photography and videography. For example, the cave of bait fish was quite difficult always because it's a very dark area and with very shiny silvery fish. I'm pretty sure my pictures did not come out too well as I don't have a lot of great experience with that.
Alex and I entered the cave just about at the same time. I was kind of watching him to see what was going on, and I was pleased to see that his frog kicks were perfect for not stirring up any of the sand.
One of the interesting things about this trip were all the ancient black corals that we found. But in this particular site, what I found interesting as an earth scientist were all the steeply sided, deeply seated pinnacles, this one here rising to about 100 feet in depth. That's too deep for them to be growing now. So what that means is that they were growing from the last ice age when the sea levels were about 200 or 300 feet lower than they are now. And they kept rising until they finally were drowned out because they couldn't keep up with the sea level rise. In Cuba, we had 2 night dives. The first, I used ultraviolet lights and no filters, which is what you see here. And the second, I used the traditional underwater blue spectrum with yellow filters on both my camera and on my mask. Let me explain. Here we have a light spectrum with ultraviolet on the right and infrared on the left. So the traditional black light, which is for mineral fluorescence, is in the UV spectrum. Its emission range can be the entire visible spectrum. However, for bioluminescence, there is a green fluorescence protein which is excited with blue spectrum, and its emission band is in the green spectrum. So this is the UV light, which is purple, and the emitted excited spectrum is only in cyan. As you can see here on all of these specimens, they appear to be the same. However, when we switch to the blue light with the yellow barrier filters, then you see the traditional green fluorescence protein revealing the green aura amongst all of these hard corals. However, here you can see some yellow in the base, and then with this beautiful gorgonian, a deep red color.
Finally, after the 3rd try, we did get to snorkel with the croc. So Dennis had done a video about Cuba, and in the video there was a segment where the crocodile was going after the chicken and it ran directly into his GoPro.
He's the one that's half in and half out, but I was right on the surface, wide angle.
So, okay, for
up against him.
Man on the spot, we need to find out what it is today that you found that was a little bit different.
Well, there was this croc that was about as far from me as you are.
That sounds like a croc.
His mouth was like this, and his one eye was looking at me, and I was like, okay, is this it? Am I toast? But no, I live to tell the story. And there will be a video news at 6.
You believe in that?
Yes. I was there with him.
Okay, you walked away.
Yes, I swam away.
Swam away.
Unscathed by the grace of God.
Imposible no elegirte ahora que estás aquí. Te quiero decir, te elijo a ti. Si me dan a elegir, te elijo a ti. Para poder vivir, te elijo a ti. Es lo que me hace sentir, te elijo a ti. Te quiero, 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 te quiero decir que te quiero, te quiero, te quiero, te quiero, te quiero.
Dennis and Monica and I are on the right-hand side of the boat in the water, and the croc was on the left-hand side, and you can see him go down to the bottom, and then he comes up right beside us.
Para poder vivir, te elijo a ti, es lo que me hace sentir, te elijo a ti, te elijo a ti.
Marty, we're going. We're going.
Te elijo a ti, te elijo a ti.
Then we had the sharks. Everybody told me, all my friends that have been there said, yeah, you'll see lots of sharks. And on the checkout dive, there weren't any sharks, and I was a little disappointed. And then I shouldn't have been, because every dive thereafter, we constantly had sharks. They would almost lead you like they knew where you were going, like they were your tour guides. And then as you would go up to your safety stop, they would go up to the boat, and you would look up and you would see all these sharks circling around the boat, and you're coming up in the middle of them, and there was no fear in them and no fear in us. We were perfectly comfortable, and we've all got video of these sharks everywhere. And they would take, and as you're diving along, they would come up beside you from behind and turn right in front of you, or they'd come straight to you and they'd get like 3 foot away and turn away. It was really cool. And then we had Laverne, which was the Goliath grouper. And she was another one of our tour guides and super curious. And on the night dive, there was a remora come out of the dark and shot around me, and I wasn't sure what it was. I was hoping it wasn't a cookie cutter. And it came out again, shot around me again. So the third time I thought, well, if it takes the same path, I'm going to get it this time on GoPro. And I stuck my GoPro up and it ran into it. And so I was like, well, it's gone. So I started swimming along again. And all of a sudden something bull rushed me from behind, and I thought to myself, oh no, this might not be good. And looked over, and it was Laverne, and it's like, oh, thank goodness. Hello, Laverne. And so I started petting her, because with Laverne, either you petted her or she was going to pet you. So there was no option there. And then she saw Andy and Monica's bigger lights over there, and so she made a mad dash for them and was all over them. And Andy, he was trying to get around her, so there's actually a picture of it. It looks like he's riding her cowboy, because he's trying to get over to get away from the crowd.
Get some lights on.
Well, that's great. We'll welcome any comments, but before we go too much further, I want to just say one thing about the Hotel Nacional that you saw in that film that I don't want to be propagated because it's not correct. We're not the outlaw types that would go and stay in an illegal place, especially where the Commerce Department is involved with embargoes. And I certainly wouldn't advise on film to stay in. So the true situation there is that, yeah, if you look on the internet, you find all kinds of stuff. And if you go for a search on that, you'll find documents that say that it's not allowed. But if you go to the hotel's website, it says, we'll take your registration, you know. And so what happens is, of course, our government changes its mind. And so those documents that said it was off limits to Americans were several years old. And even on the State Department's own site, you know, they refer you to that. But then if you dig a little further, you'll find documents that show that it was taken off the list a number of years ago. So you can stay there quite legally, and I highly recommend it. So that's just didn't want to get that out there. Yeah. My attorney advised me to disavow any. Well, it's on film, you know.
I really wanted to take a minute to thank everybody that contributed. I know Monica and you guys over there, the Singletons, and Russell, and everybody that contributed. and especially Craig and Betsy, who spent the most expensive diving in the world, huh?
Yeah,
You know, you got one, right?
I got two.
Okay. And I think that when we came home, how many people did we think Alex had come down with COVID or gave it to? Yeah. I know that Joe Hawes came home with it and gave it to his wife. So, I mean, it was a mash unit for sure. And Carl, of course, he was close to being dead with his liver issue and gallbladder. And thankfully they got him settled down and got enough antibiotics in him to kill off that infection. And then they took his gallbladder out and hey, just got back from the Philippines. So I guess he's okay now. But Jesse, and thank you very much for leading the way there. You've been there, what, 4 times? Yeah. Pretty cool. Do you have any questions about Cuba or the diving or anything?
How can I get a copy of send this my son Mark?
Yeah, it's Mark. Hello, Mark.
Mark wasn't on the video tonight, so.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll make sure that I put it on YouTube and I will distribute my YouTube channel so that you can all see it.
Thank you.
And it will also be on the HUPS YouTube, HUPS.org YouTube channel. So,
You know,
we better save the questions and comments. We still have the photo contest to do. So we'll be going to dinner. All of these, those of you that can come, La Tapatia down Bel Air there, we can give you directions. But we got to get the contest done and then get out of here before they freak out.
let me have a head count. Who's going on? The other night. Hold hands up. 1, 2, 3. Okay. By the way, I want to make sure that everybody understands offices are anything but novice anymore.
Sandbaggers, we call them.
Yeah.
You know them well because we all been one, you know.
Okay, you'll tell me if you see a square over this.
I don't think we have it. Blackwater over there. What is it?
All right. Congratulations, everybody. Well, that was fantastic. If I'm not wrong, there was a couple of X-rated films there, shots there that I'm not sure about, but you know, this group always appreciates that kind of thing, so keep it coming. Andy had a great comment, which I'll tell you he made in the Philippines, because we were talking about getting an X-rated shot of something or other, and he said, "What is it with underwater? We don't go around and say, 'Hey, I got a picture of some dogs screwing on the road or something,' but underwater, you know, we go wild for it." So, hey, you want some? Junk.